Hi, my name is Ines Crane, and today I will be discussing antisocial personality disorder in Gone Girl. So, to begin with, we'll be talking about the character description and the cultural significance. Amy Dunn is the protagonist of Gone Girl. She comes from an affluent family and is a writer herself. Her parents wrote a children's book series, Amazing Amy, based on her life. She eventually marries Nick Dunn and plans to frame him for her own murder after her marriage deteriorates. Now, as for the cultural context, the film takes place in present day. The primary focus of the movie is to embody the modern American media and legal environment, where social status, prominence, affluence, and wealth are the ultimate goals. Amy uses the media's hunger for a narrative and perpetuates the idea of the ideal wife fallen victim to an abusive husband to go through with her plan. Ultimately, her plan works as she is intelligent and privileged. Next, we're going to talk about her diagnosis and its cultural context. Amy is diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder. ASPD is a cluster B personality disorder. Individuals suffering from this disorder exhibit a consistent and blatant disregard for the will and rights of others. They usually start showing symptoms at around age 15. In order to be diagnosed, the individual must have 3 or more symptoms and be at least 18 years of age. To understand the significance of how Amy got away with what she did, we must also discuss the film's cultural context and how it might impact the diagnosis. To begin with, ASPD is very often influenced by culture. One of the primary reasons psychologists can identify an individual with ASPD is that individual's failure to conform to societal norms. Because of this, the disorder is often linked to the lower income population or the incarcerated population. Amy is viewed as a perfect victim. She comes from an affluent family and is a white woman. Additionally, she is good at manipulating the population, causing them to feel distressed over her disappearance. Because of these factors, her diagnosis would most likely be overlooked. Throughout the movie, we can see that she is shielded from suspicion and psychiatric intervention. Next, we're going to talk about ASPD across cultures, stigmas, and diagnoses. Unfortunately, individuals with ASPD are often seen as inherently evil or as psychopaths due to social and cultural stigmas. There is an undeniable lack of empathy for individuals suffering from this disorder. Because of this, there is a sense of therapeutic pessimism, which can be defined as the belief that the disorder is untreatable and that there is no solution. Unfortunately, those with ASPD are often seen as untreatable. Because of this, and as a result, they are denied the proper treatment they need to get better. Culturally, across the world, ASPD is stigmatized. Worldwide, recognition of the traits associated with ASPD are recognized and accepted. However, the diagnosis, which is defined by the DSM-5-TR, is not recognized worldwide. In Western culture, ASPD is believed to be associated with crime and deviant behaviors. Other cultures might view ASPD through a more moral or spiritual lens, rather than a clinical personality disorder. Now let's dive into the evidence regarding Amy's diagnosis. Her first symptom is deceitfulness. Throughout the movie, she repeatedly lies and cons others for her own personal gain and pleasure. One example of her deceitfulness is the fake diary she creates. The diary she creates contains various entries detailing the abuse that she did not undergo. Additionally, she created and faked a complex crime scene in her house, staging physical violence and placing fake clues around the house, all to convince the public and the media and the police that Nick murdered her. Her second symptom is her lack of remorse. Throughout the movie, it is clear that Amy has trouble rationalizing having hurt or mistreated someone. She is indifferent to her actions and shows no remorse for the hurt she does unto others. She shows zero remorse for framing Nick, her husband, for murder. She has zero remorse for murdering Desi Collins, and she has zero remorse for stealing from Nick's sister. To her, all of these wrongdoings are necessary, as they will help her regain control of Nick. This is how she justifies these actions in her brain. Researchers and doctors have noted that a lack of remorse is a symptom of one of the more severe and violent forms of ASPD. Interestingly enough, there is a symptom that Amy does not display, which is the failure to plan ahead and impulsivity. Amy's plan was crafted so meticulously. She planned the entire thing months ahead, staging and calculating financial, media, and legal consequences Nick would be facing. Because of this, Amy is often categorized as having high-functioning psychopathic traits associated with ASPD. Next, we're going to talk about the treatment that I would give her and why it is appropriate to her case. Schema therapy is a psychotherapeutic approach that targets early maladaptive schemas, which is why personally I would propose schema therapy. Maladaptive schemas are negative themes and patterns that form in childhood and early adolescence. They shape one's confidence and self-perception in relationships throughout life. They are patterns of thought and emotion, and they occur as a result of unmet emotional needs during childhood. The treatment administered to Amy would primarily focus on confronting the schemas surrounding the entitlement and grandiosity she displays throughout the movie, as well as the emotional deprivation she so clearly feels. Schema therapy is very appropriate in this scenario, as it targets the core emotional needs and patterns driving the dysfunctional behavior that she exhibits. It helps challenge and end maladaptive behaviors through targeting their root cause. The largest barrier to treatment would be Amy's refusal to be treated. Oftentimes, individuals with ASPD refuse to seek out help or counseling. Amy would fit in with this particular group of people, as she sees her actions as successful strategies for controlling those around her. It would be difficult to convince Amy that her actions are disordered. Unfortunately, schemotherapy is not foolproof. Amy is highly intelligent, which means she could use manipulation to make it seem as if she is being compliant and becoming better. She could use therapeutic language to make it seem as if she's making an effort, in addition, to do better. As a result, she would become an even better manipulator. I used the empirical article Antisocial Personality Disorder and Therapeutic Pessimism. How can mentalization-based treatment contribute to an increased therapeutic optimism among health professionals to help me with my diagnosis? I cited it at the bottom of the page, and it is also on my works cited page at the end of the presentation. Now we're going to look at broader perspectives. The film does not accurately portray the disorder. Amy embodies certain psychopathic tendencies and personality traits. She is cunning, very charming, and very manipulative, and has an undeniable lack of empathy. However, it is unlikely for individuals with ASPD to have this sense of high-functioning psychopathy. It is very rare and exaggerated in the film for dramatic effect. More commonly, individuals with ASPD are often unemployed, are chronically irresponsible, and are horrible planners. Amy does not embody any of these very common traits. This portrayal of Amy Dunn promotes the stigma of the villainous, high-functioning genius psychopaths we so often see in movies. This portrayal of Amy could lead to public fear and fuel the idea that only high-functioning and highly intelligent criminals have ASPD, whereas it is very possible for the disorder to manifest within the general population or someone who wouldn't be seen as a genius. Well, now that we've neared the end of my presentation, here are my works cited in APA format. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation on Amy Dunn.